want to give a little introduction, Miss
Yes,
Catherine?
yes. So I'm Miss Catherine Mora. Um, you probably, for those who are listening, probably know me from TikTok doing like a bunch of Marvel and nerdy stuff. Yeah, no, I mean, how deep into an introduction do you want me to
Uh,
go?
that's fine with me. That's good with
Okay.
me. Alrighty, because I just wanted to. You were on Geek, so a lot of people,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah,
might.
yeah. I was also on Geek for a while last year,
Yeah,
so people will probably recognize me from there too.
yeah. So you're back on the channel.
Yes,
So it'll be a good time.
yes.
But I did have. Let me pull up my notes. They've disappeared again.
I know.
It's okay. I have too many tabs open.
Like my mind.
Oh, always. I did want to ask because I know outside of your niche of it was Marvel skits when you
Yes.
got, is that what got you popular?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
but you do film.
I do. I
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
Did you go for directing or is it for so
So I went to Tisch for the film and TV program, and but the thing about that program is that like you can do like basically anything. And I was like,
right,
I just want to do writing. So instead of doing a
okay,
writing program, I was like, I'm going to go in the film program because that makes total sense.
right.
So it was cool because you get to experience a little bit of like all of the roles.
Hmm.
And I was just, I like this year I'm hoping to direct like my first like out of school like short film, so that's pretty exciting. But no, writing has always been like my true like main passion, but storytelling in general is kind of like that's what I want to build a career around.
Right, right. No, I love writing. I don't do a whole lot of it outside of like hobby stuff.
Hmm.
But and then my brain's going too fast for my mouth. Um, but I went to school for photography, so we did some like video classes. So I was like, oh, I don't know what an actual film school is like. So that's cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of you have no free weekends, no free
That's
weekends
fair.
because you're always on set.
That's fair. Oh man, I didn't even think about that. I was always in a, you know, studio, but not like the same. We had
Yeah.
a studio on campus though when
Hmm.
my college isn't around anymore.
Oh,
They went bankrupt. So
oh.
back when I had a college,
Oh my goodness. I hope that's like one of the things that like you don't have to pay
I
rent
right.
anymore.
No, no.
Okay,
Thankfully
good.
I went on my dad's VA, so I don't have
Okay.
yeah,
Okay, okay.
thankfully. But when they started asking for extra money on top of that, I was like, I need to leave immediately. So
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah. But yeah, so back when there was a school, there was it was a half film, half but like photography, half culinary because it was like an art and then like
Oh,
interior design and stuff. So it was
okay.
a fun little mixture of things.
Yeah.
Um, but I was going to ask you on top of films, what movies are you excited for this year?
I'm super excited for Deadpool and Wolverine. That's like
Yeah,
it's like of course
that's
it's a Marvel one,
everyone's.
but like the thing is it's like
But it's like the Marvel
it's
one
the
this year.
Marvel movie. I feel like I know everybody's saying like, "Oh, this is the project that's going to bring Marvel back." I'm like, "No. This is the one that like it's going to feel like it was in like the phase 3 days of
Right,
Marvel like
right,
cuz the thing is like when Disney bought 20th Century, it was like, "Oh, we're not really going to get Deadpool, and if we do, it's going to be like a super toned down like watered down version, which is based off of that trailer." It's like, "Oh, no, like
oh
it's
no,
actually like we're
we
getting Deadpool 3."
is like this isn't the first or this isn't new for me, but it's new for Disney.
Yes, that was like,
Oh,
yep,
it's so
that's it.
good. It's
Yep,
so
yep, you
good.
set the tone immediately.
Yeah, just right out the gates. It was I didn't realize that that's why they got Deadpool because of buying 20th Century Fox.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just totally missed that. And then what other movies? Deadpool.
Deadpool. God, what else is? I mean, honestly, I'm more excited about TV this year. To
Ooh,
be
okay.
honest, like I'm so excited for the Acolyte, the new Star Wars show that's coming
Okay,
out
okay,
in
yeah, yeah.
in June, I think, and House of the Dragon season 2.
Ooh,
Like,
yeah.
and those are, and I think the boys. I think all three of those are coming out
The
in June,
Boys comes out.
actually.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so June is going to be like a really stacked month. I'm very excited
Just
for all of this.
everything. Because it's Deadpool's July.
Deadpool
Because it's
July,
like
yeah.
right after my birthday.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so it's like a nice little birthday present.
Exactly. I get to see God. Okay, not to just tangent on Deadpool because I'll probably talk about this later. But
Yeah,
Mr. Paradox, I'm so excited for a new TVA agent. Like because he's the
yeah.
guy from Succession.
Succession.
I've never seen Succession, but I've heard
Oh,
very good
okay.
things about him.
He's really good. It's a very different character
Right,
from what I've seen in the show. It's a very different character, so I'm very excited to see what he
right.
does.
Because he's not like the straight man is the wrong way to put it, but like the serious guy in like their because it's all kind of because Succession is just
He's
family gossip, right?
Succession, so he marries into the rich family, and he's, like,
Okay.
kind of a
The
loser. He's, like, really like
I will say the only scene I've seen is the siblings fighting and him walking in and turning around and
yes,
leaving. So, because somebody was
yeah,
like, "This is Loki and Sylvie and Mobius if
pretty
they
much.
were able to be siblings."
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's the only thing I've seen from him in there. So, but I love Kieran Culkin.
Yes,
I should
he's
know this.
great.
I was a Scott Pilgrim girly, so yeah, I'm still a Scott Pilgrim girly. Yeah, and
Yeah.
is that it for TV? For
That's I mean, I think
there's other
'cause
stuff I'm sure
there's
coming out
other
the end of
stuff
the
that's, like, their dates haven't been confirmed yet, like, like, What If, season 3,
year.
Agatha's show, Agatha
Oh yeah, I
Harkness.
guess that's end of this year, unless
I
they
think
change it. I'm so excited.
yeah,
I
no,
can't.
I'm been waiting to go back to, like, the WandaVision-ish realm,
Right.
and Catherine Hahn's just great. She's
Mhm.
just so, so talented, so that's gonna be fun. But, yeah, I'm really, like, just kind of short term, like, focused on projects right now, so it's definitely, like, those summer shows and
Right.
Deadpool.
Right. No, I'm excited for I forgot about, is it they keep changing the name because I
Yes, it's
always remember, like, Coven of Chaos because that
yeah,
was a cool one.
they keep changing it, so I just keep
Right.
referring it to
Agatha
Agatha Show.
Harkness, and then something I know they released a different name for it, but I liked Coven of Chaos, so that's the one that
Yeah.
stuck. But I like the magic users of the MCU. I'm
Mhm.
biased, so
I
I'm
mean, they're great. They
the
really are.
right. The Marvel Spotlight stuff's been really good though, and then
Mhm.
that's the street level stuff.
Yes. Yeah,
So
I actually because I was in New York City yesterday, and I think I might have stumbled upon a Daredevil set.
I think they wrapped yesterday. No, day before yesterday,
It was either yesterday or the day
but they might still have
before.
it up. Yeah,
Yeah, they might still have it up. They might be filming,
just the
like,
last little
establishment
bits.
shots, like,
Yeah,
last little bits that don't necessarily need, like, Charlie or any of the others
right,
of the other main cast, but yeah, because 'cause I'm walking down the street, I'm not that far from Hell's Kitchen. I look over, it's, like, a very Daredevil-esque, Catholic church, and there's,
right.
like, the sets and the signs and everything, and people working. I'm like, "Hmm," and the
Hmm.
project code was day 0, and I'm like, "That's a comic run, isn't it?" So or
Maybe,
0
but
day, A 0.
Daredevil's like project code name is Out of the Kitchen. It's beautiful. I love it so much. But
Oh,
yeah, so I wonder what day zero is.
yeah, I
But
don't
no, I
know.
guess that wouldn't be it.
Yeah, okay,
Oh, I
never
love
mind.
that. I
Sadness.
love because I think the only ones I know is that one because it's like Lex's favorite show, so I learned what their name was, and then Loki filmed under the architect.
Okay, I like
So
that. I like that.
yeah,
I I know that, Iron Fist, when that was still on Netflix, filmed under Kick. Just Kick. I was like,
okay. I think it makes sense.
I
How
was
do you
like,
feel?
"Okay, sure."
Do you like Iron Fist? I don't know. I
No.
okay.
No.
I have not. I've watched just for as far as Netflix shows go because I'm
Mhm.
squeamish. So I never watched Daredevil, but I'm going
Fair.
to because like binge The Boys, so I'm a little
Okay.
bit better with squeamish
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh, yeah, if
Um,
you can get through The Boys,
right,
Daredevil's a piece of cake.
exactly. That's why I was like on like compared to the weekend or week that I spent binging The Boys because I needed to. Am I good to
Yeah.
like my dad and Lex? And they're like,
Mhm.
yeah, I think you should be.
Yeah.
Now I can't get through it because my dad cosplays Kingpin, and I'm just every time I see him, like when he was in Echo, I was like, "That's my dad. Stop this."
That's
Um,
amazing.
right. Um, but how do you feel about the possibility of Iron Fist getting a new show with a female-led Iron Fist?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that it also depends, like, if they're just completely rebooting it or if they're gonna bring I forget the actress's name, but she played, Colleen, I think her name was, who was, like I didn't really watch I
Right,
watched, like, the
right,
first 2 episodes of Iron Fist, and I was like, "I'm done, I
right,
can't do this
right.
anymore." But Colleen, and she was also in The Defenders, I think, as
That
well,
makes
and I
sense. That makes
watched and I've heard rumors like, it might be her that was taking on the lead. And I don't know how that would work in terms of the story, because again, I didn't
right,
really watch the show. But I'm like, at this point, when it's like people on the internet complaining about like, why are we changing and blah blah blah. I was like, have you read a comic book? Like this happens all the time. This is
right,
literally like one of the most canon things that can happen. And
right.
like the mantles change. They change from person to person, regardless if it's male, female. Like Steve giving the shield to Sam. Sometimes
Exactly.
Bucky is Captain America. Like it changes
Right.
all the
Right.
time.
The Thors.
Yes,
Gosh,
all the
there's
Thor.
what like one day we'll get
One
Mr. Beta Ray Bill. See what people have to say about that. Many Thors, my little
Yes.
boy.
Oh my gosh. Yes, right.
Yeah, my friend got him for me.
I love that.
And then
Um,
Croaky's somewhere on the
I
ground.
was gonna say
It's fine.
you gotta have Croaky somewhere.
Yeah, I think he's down there.
Like, I think I vaguely see him.
Yeah,
Yes,
he's hiding anything stuffed under that dresser.
planning his
So,
attack.
exactly. But yeah, no, I was excited about that. I'm hopefully Jessica Jones will come back. I miss
Yes,
her.
I miss her. She's
Um,
great.
they could bring back Kilgrave, and I think that would be fun, but that's because I love David Tennant. So
I mean,
anytime I get to see him,
he did a really good job in that role. Like he really committed to it. And it's like I because I've seen mixed opinions on him and Jessica Jones. I'm like, no, but you know what? Like even if you think like he was over the top or if he was like a borderline cheese ball, I'm like that's what works for the character
right,
though. Like
right,
it's he's not meant like yes he's if you think about it like his powers can be like very scary but because like what he can make people do,
right.
but he's basically just throwing like a temper tantrum the whole show, so it's like
He's like he could be. I still think he's like one of the scariest villains, just
yeah,
because his powers are so scary. But the only thing that stops him is he's a giant baby.
yes, he has no ambition.
Exactly. Just I need this world to like me,
Sheesh.
please. I'm gonna wrap it around because I'm sure we'll talk Marvel forever. But I
Yeah.
did want to ask
Hmm.
if you remember what your first experience with fandom was, just in general.
Oh man.
Maybe a first fandom you were in, or
Yeah. Oh god. So this
and
so
if
the
it's
first
embarrassing, mine.
fandom I was
Okay,
in is like
if if you want to be embarrassed, the first one I remember being in is Glee. So
but I feel like Glee was almost like a rite of passage.
I was
Mine is like
Tumblr
more
era, so
yeah.
like we were all kind of just hoping because I was
So
there, super kulak.
Super Hulock was a classic. That was a
Yes.
classic. No, my first fandom, gosh, I like this is the so it was this cartoon. I don't know if anyone's gonna remember this. Code Lyoko. It was on Cartoon Network.
Yes.
Yes,
I love it.
Code
With
Lyoko.
their 5 heads.
Yes,
They
with
had
their huge five heads and this like boarding school that like really didn't have any rules, but the plot required it.
exactly, exactly. It's that same trope that's just you have to be at a school because we need to put you all in the same area so
The same,
shenanigans can happen.
yes, with
We don't
minimal
care that you're
parental
actually in
supervision.
school. Gosh, I haven't thought about that. That's the theme song gets stuck in my head periodically. I could not tell you
Mhm.
the plot. I don't remember.
Yeah, just it's basically the Matrix. Like they have to keep
Yeah.
going into a virtual reality to save the world.
They had the cat boy with the like
Yes,
swoopy hair. That's
yes,
like the
yeah, yes. I think I still remember. I remember the theme song, but yeah, that was
right.
like my first like that was like the first fan fiction I read. That was like the first like I used to make video like more edits, like video
Yeah.
edits. So I would
I
make
love that.
Code Lyoko
Back in
video
the
edits.
AMV days of
Yes,
the internet, gosh.
yes.
Now it's
I
just
did
fan
a lot
cams.
of
Not to
that.
sound old.
But
uh, yeah, I think
yeah.
I think cartoon wise, mine was probably Danny Phantom. So
Okay.
you know,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
makes sense.
I was like it was like Code Lyoko, Teen Titans, like the
Teen
original like Teen Titans.
Titans,
I
yeah.
don't really like Teen Titans Go, and I know like a lot of people do.
It's
But
so I
I just
get it. I
yeah.
miss what it was.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. I miss the darker tones that they would take.
gosh, the like Tokyo movie, I think about it every
Yes,
once in a while.
I
That was
think
so
about
dark.
it was so good.
Or there was I don't remember if I had put it on or if it just had been on in the background, but there was an episode that I was watching recently where like Starfire gets like sent to the future and it's just like Cyborg
Yes.
living by himself.
Cyborg by himself,
Oh,
Nightwing, and
right.
yes,
Gosh.
yes.
Oh,
No, they had
Nightwing.
some like really solid episodes. Like the whole like apprentice arc was yeah, it was really good. It was
With
really really good.
Slade, not Slade. I didn't realize his name's not Slade because I knew it from so yeah. Yeah, I thought his name has always been Slade. I didn't realize they are censoring it for children.
Yes,
So
yes,
the other
it's
day I was
not
talking with
him.
Lex. Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know. Okay. I'm a fake. I'm not super into DC. I like it. I just,
Hmm.
pick and choose my little things.
Yeah,
So, but I
same.
did start the
Same.
Harley Quinn show. I've been
Ooh,
enjoying that. I watched it while I was working on her dress. So,
nice, nice. It's on my list. It's on my
it's very good.
list.
It doesn't take itself too seriously, which I think DC has an issue with taking itself too
Yeah,
seriously.
yeah,
So,
Arrowverse.
I have only watched a couple episodes of The Flash, and it was the ones where the Glee episode or the Glee character. Wow, the Glee actors were there.
Yes,
I like the
yeah.
Music Man
The
one.
musical
That one was
episode.
cute. Or that was Supergirl, I think. But still,
Yeah, yeah.
it was fun. I liked
It's
it.
fun. Yeah.
And then I did want to ask what your favorite movie was, because I don't think I know it for one, which is
Like
just a friend question. But two,
of
if you
all
can
time.
if you can choose one, if not, I'll take like
Yeah,
a
I
lit
can give you
because
like a top like 3 or 5 because the thing is it's even my top like 5 is always changing. So,
whatever you want to give, I'll take it.
yeah, I'll give you like a current top 5-ish. So favorite movies right now, Rogue One. And I think
Mm,
that's partially because I like just rewatched it not too long
right.
ago. It's one of my favorite Star Wars movies, so it's like it's really good. Um, what else? Avengers Infinity War.
Mm.
Yes, that's a solid one. What else? I'm trying to think like what I have. My little DVD Blu-ray collection. I'm trying to think what I have over there. Um, The Devil Wears Prada. Like yes,
Ooh,
going back to like,
that's good.
2000.
That's a
Yes.
good. I
The
think
Devil
we
Wears
should bring back cheese.
yes.
Like, it's not cheesy, but like those kinds of early 2000 movies,
Yeah.
especially rom-coms. I miss a good rom-com.
Good rom-com. Good rom-coms were like, and I could go into like why Hollywood doesn't do those anymore. That there's like a whole
Do it.
capitalist
Do it.
reason.
I want to hear.
The thing was, and I might get some of the, I'm not gonna even try doing some of the dates, and I might get like a little bit,
Right. Right.
but to paraphrase essentially, is that one before Hollywood couldn't put any movies to be screened in China.
Okay.
They weren't allowed to screen movies in China. And then China said, okay, you can do like up to like 5 to 10, like they go like 5 movies a year, but you can only send us 5 movies, and that's it.
Okay.
Eventually, then it was like, okay, you can do. They increased the number essentially, and doing that was such like a huge increase in like box office numbers,
Oh.
but at the same time, it costs too much to like dub and translate like dialogue heavy films into
Hmm.
like into Chinese and like all the various other languages as they started doing like more foreign box office.
Right.
So Hollywood slowly started shifting over to like more action based films
Okay. Okay.
because you don't need like a lot of dialogue. It's like super easy just with sound effects. And then also like the decline of DVD sales kind of killed the rom-com essentially. So that's why we have like 17 Fast and Furious movies and like yeah,
Right.
basically.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. I,
Yeah.
I think I've heard a little bit of that before, so that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, it was basically like being able to like because yeah, it's true like the Chinese box office is like a huge portion of like how much money Hollywood makes. So in order to like more like efficiently in a financial sense like market to them,
Right.
they shifted over to like nothing things that they didn't have to put too much time or money into like dubbing and translating.
Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Hmm.
Makes sense, man. But I want a good rom-com. I miss
Good
them.
rom-coms are, and even like rom-coms we get now, they're not
Right.
and it's missing the magic.
Exactly. I think the last one I watched was the J-Lo and Owen Wilson one, which they were both rom-com actors. So
Yes.
like you it was like the closest to getting what we used to. I haven't
Mhm.
watched the one that was the Shakespeare.
Oh, anyone but you,
Yeah,
right?
and it
Yeah.
was the Much Ado About Nothing, which
Yes.
is so good. And just haven't watched it yet, but I want to.
Yeah,
I
I love
probably
how
personally I would have watched it faster if I knew it was Shakespeare first, and I just
yes.
was like, "Oh, okay, here's this thing." And then everybody was like, "Oh, it's kind of good." And I was like, "No, it's Much Ado. I want to see this." Like,
No, so I love how all of a sudden they were like, "Oh, this is like the highest box office earnings for like a Shakespeare adaptation," and everybody was like,
I was like, "This is
"This isn't
Shakespeare."
Shakespeare?"
Exactly. You guys missed. It's like when people are doing the like. It's not the same, but it reminded me at least the musicals that aren't advertised as musicals.
Yes. Hmm.
How do you feel about it? Because I
I
am
mean, so
I don't.
I love a good musical.
Mhm.
Like Greatest Showman, that's another one of like my I would say of my top
Ooh, okay.
movies.
Yeah.
I love a good musical. High School Musical was like another one of my early fandom days. But so like if I'm going into something and all of a sudden they start breaking out into song and dance, I'm gonna be like, oh, okay, this is
Right.
a nice
Right.
surprise. But I also know there are people who like don't like musicals. They
Right.
really don't like musicals. So they're gonna go in and all of a sudden they're starting to sing and it's like, what? This is
Right.
what like it false advertising essentially. I'm like, that's
Exactly.
not
That's why I was
like
like, I know people don't like them, but would they at least be nicer about it if you told them instead of just
probably.
trying to hide it in the trailer? I just
Yeah. Because then they're gonna feel like tricked and they're gonna feel
exactly.
like
And then
that's
they're gonna
the
not like
goal.
musicals more because they were
Hmm.
tricked into seeing a musical.
Exactly.
Wild. I just remember when Mean Girls came out and everybody's like, when did this happen? I didn't know this was a and I was like, oh, okay.
It's like they put it in the fine print, like very tiny fine
Right.
print.
Right. Or I guess Willy Wonka had musical numbers in it as well. I never saw the new
Oh, I
one.
haven't seen it either. But I've seen the one clip of him like doing it's almost like he's doing like the sand walk.
Oh, is it the one with the giraffe in the background?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
He's doing the
Yeah, I've
sand
seen it
walk.
on TikTok.
I was like,
Gosh.
oh, okay. That's how I found out it was like musical numbers in that movie.
Right, right. Gosh, I just advertisement for movies lately. It's wild.
Mm. Yeah, very questionable.
Right. Speaking of
Yes.
things that were not advertised as they were supposed to, kind of. How do you feel about all the quiet cancellation of Marvel projects right now? Did you see that?
No,
Where
what's been canceled?
Kevin Feige was like, "Hey, we are thinking about canceling a bunch of stuff, and we've kind of been working on it in the background." They haven't said what, but the unfortunate
Okay.
thing is that it doesn't look good for what they've done, because it's Ironheart, Armor Wars, and Blade, possibly.
Oh, okay. Yes. So I think I remember hearing something about like there was like a meeting and they're like, oh, we're gonna like kind of limit the amount
Limit
of
the
projects we do and like focus on more like the successful stuff. So I heard about that. I didn't realize that they had come forward and said like we're gonna cancel like stuff that's already been announced.
in yeah, because I think
That's
Ironheart was in their like photography stage where they're just like touching up stuff.
yeah, like I was
Um,
gonna say I thought they like finished wrapping
right.
already.
Which
Yeah.
one would be bringing Tony Stark back, so why wouldn't you?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm. Mhm.
and I know, right?
Tony's my favorite, so like,
I
yeah,
just
please.
and it would be in a way that people wouldn't be mad because it should be her little AI.
Mhm.
So, like,
Exactly. Exactly.
gosh,
Comic accurate. Which is
right,
like in general, like beyond just Marvel, like I'm really annoyed with Hollywood in general, like how they keep putting movies like in the vault, like as tax write-offs, like, oh, we're
or
never gonna release
the
this, like the Roadrunner movie that they're
yes,
not even gonna
exactly,
like let anybody shop it or anything like that. I think that it's kind of ridiculous that these studios can put all this money into making something and then
right,
decide, you know what, we're just not going to show this to anyone and we're going to make all of this money or at least some of the money back by doing
right,
it as a tax write off. Like I would love to know like how that even works. To
right,
like
right.
it's
It's
just it's like the I don't want to say I wouldn't say censorship, but like the suppression of art,
right.
which
Well,
is
they're also because I've seen a lot of the conversations where people are like, "Hey, remember when we used to have like 20 episode shows and you
yes.
could like have character development and filler
Mm-hmm.
episodes
Yep.
and which was, cable, which everything is coming back around where streaming is like, "Hey, what if we had commercial breaks and we had longer episodes?" And
I
I was
know.
like, "Wow, we're going back to cable, huh?"
Going back to
Uh,
cable, basically. Um,
but
yeah, no, I mean, because like, so to go back to like fandom, like another one of my fandoms, was I'll go with Castle, for example, which was he was a writer and he worked with a cop. That was
right,
basically the gist of it. And they would have like 24, 25 episode seasons, and I think they went on for like 8 seasons. And the depth that they were able to go into each of the characters, like not even just the main two, the lead
right,
guy and girl, but like their part, like their sidekicks almost, like the side characters, like the side characters got their own episodes where you got to learn more about their
right,
past and the actors really got a chance to shine. And we don't get stuff like that anymore.
right.
Like it's very rare because people, they call them like filler episodes. It's like, well, no, like
Well,
if it's like
no, right,
developing the character, like even if it doesn't necessarily like develop like the main plot, because that's part of the thing too. a lot of shows now, it's like, okay, we just have like this one main plot, and that's all we're gonna focus on. Whereas
Right.
before, it was like the big bad guy of a show would only show up like 2 episodes a season. And that
Right.
was part of like what made that like the villain of a show like so good. Like they weren't
Right.
always there. They weren't always focused on them. So I don't know. I miss having more episodes in a season. I miss having like the character development, like, learning more about the characters and getting to see them like actually be a unit as
Right.
opposed to just like filling a role for like
Right.
a mission, quote unquote. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Exactly. I think that's why anime is getting really popular, to be
Hmm.
honest.
Yeah,
It's
that
always
makes
been
sense.
fairly, but like they have at most, I think the standard's 12 episodes a season, and then
Yeah.
every quarter or whatever they can have a season. So it's
Hmm.
animation is a little bit awkward because right now they're overworking people to get stuff
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
It's always had an overworking issue, but lately it's been pretty bad.
Pretty bad.
But I do think that's what the rise of it was because you get to know characters and continue to know the characters.
Yeah.
I think a lot of complaints that people had with there's not a lot of complaints with Loki season two, but one of them was, "Hey, I would have loved to know
Hmm.
more about these other characters you've made us like." So that
Yeah. It's true. It's true. And I think that's one of the reasons, like, to talk about a Disney show right now, like The Bad Batch, going back to
Yeah,
animation.
yeah, yeah.
They
That's
have
the
like
Star Wars one, right?
yeah, yeah, that it's like it takes place like right after Revenge of the Sith. And these seasons they have like I think it's like 15 episodes a season, which is like, compared to what things used to be back then, it's not a lot, but for now,
Right,
that's like, 3 times the length of some
right.
like Disney shows. And because you have all that time, you really get to know these characters. You really get
Right.
to like know the world and like get to see them connect with each other and everything.
Exactly.
So I think Hollywood needs to kind of start shifting from just like they're very focused on like plot stories as opposed to character stories.
Right. That's one of the I don't know if you saw because Warner Brothers has been doing a lot of their like axing projects, but Our
Hmm.
Flag Means Death got canceled.
Yes,
Um
I heard about
in the
that.
middle of they were actually like searching out like locations and stuff and they were like, "Yeah, no, actually you guys don't get a season 3."
Oh,
And that was one of the shows that I saw that actually had like character like moments with characters where you actually got to like know the side characters. So that was
yeah.
refreshing. And I think they had 10 episodes, 11 episodes per season. So that was pretty cool. It,
Mhm.
it was also like their most popular and they axed it. So
Which is
it's
like
wild to me.
it's bizarre how like I would love to know the thought process as to like why these shows get
Right.
canceled.
Right.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah.
That's why we're here talking about shows and not in charge of them, right?
Exactly.
I did want to ask you about what you thought about superhero fatigue, though, in while we're talking about
Yeah.
people making a bunch
Yeah.
of shows. Because I think people have said it, but I don't think it's really hit yet. Because I think a lot of the stuff that's I don't know how I want to say it. Because I think a lot of the criticisms that I've seen that say it's superhero fatigue are the same people who have criticisms of everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
maybe, but that's my personal thing.
I mean, people have been saying superhero fatigue since before Endgame came out.
Right.
Even before Avengers Endgame came out, people are saying, "Oh, superhero fatigue, superhero fatigue." And I think it's not necessarily superhero fatigue. I think it's that the quality of some projects because now Marvel is doing like let's take Marvel because they are doing more than anyone
Right.
else in the
Right. Well,
superhero realm.
we have the DC like
We have
reworking themselves
they're
right now.
reworking
So like,
themselves. But like Marvel, I think it was in 2021 they released like 2 movies and 4 shows, and then 2022 it was like again 4 shows, but like four
right.
movies.
Right.
It was a lot happening at once, and they're like all of these stories had so much potential, but I feel like because there was so much happening at once that it didn't necessarily get like the same amount of like focus or
Right.
care.
Right.
Um, and I think part of that was because of the rush to fill the Disney Plus library. I
That's
think
fair.
because all of a sudden is like, oh,
That
Disney Plus
launch,
platform that launched in
right?
2020, I
I
think,
think so.
around
Because
there.
like
Yeah.
WandaVision and stuff was one of its first.
Yeah, I think The Mandalorian was like the very first show, like in general, but WandaVision was the first
Right.
MCU project on there, and I think it was just a demand from corporate probably that was
Probably.
like, we need you to make a bunch of stuff so that we can put it on here, so more people will buy this,
Exactly.
and Marvel. fulfilled that, but, they weren't I think if they were going to do that, they probably had to, like, maybe make a few more hires,
Right.
hire a
It
lot
was
more
hard
people
too
to
because it
manage.
was
Oh, yeah.
pandemic.
It was the pandemic, so that kind of also put, like, a kink in everything, and I mean, again, at the most, they were doing before, Disney Plus, they were doing 3 projects a year.
Right,
3 movies a year, that was, like, the maximum of what they had ever done, and then all of a sudden, they were doing, like, 4 movies a year,
right,
on top of, like, 4 shows, and it's just a lot. It's a lot
right.
to handle.
And then you have everything with DC and The Boys was
Mhm.
coming out at the same time, and
Yeah.
now The Boys is one of the ones that's interesting to me because it's satirical. So it's making fun of the entire genre, but now they have also have a spinoff now, and
Yes.
which is
Yeah.
I haven't watched Gen V, so I have
Mhm.
because, squeamish, so it takes a lot for me to sit down and watch The Boys, but I do like it, just
Yeah.
as a show, because it's so satirical. So,
And I think that's part of, like, why The Boys is so refreshing compared to, like, a MCU or a DC project, because it is a superhero show, but it's kind of playing more into, like, politics isn't the right word, but, like, that politics is part of it. It's playing more into,
right,
like,
I
I
mean,
wanna say, like, maybe, like, a real world genre.
right,
Like, it's like, this is the real world. It's basically, like, kind of like a Succession. It's like a corporate show, but
exactly.
it just happens to have superheroes in it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It's one of those things, you can't say that superhero stuff isn't political, it does go hand in hand,
Yeah.
but I understand what
Yeah.
you mean.
Yeah.
Because there's always some sort of commentary on something. It's
Mhm.
like, the X-Men,
Yeah.
with everybody being angry about that. Have you watched the new X-Men?
I've started to watch it,
Okay.
behind, but because I hadn't watched the
The
original.
original.
Yeah, no, my Saturday mornings was ABC Kids, so it was like The Replacements, That's So Raven, Sweet
Right.
Life, Hannah Montana.
Exactly.
I didn't really see X-Men growing up, but no, I mean, like, the animation on it is really good. Like, I feel like I'm like watching a show from the 90s.
Right. No, I love it. I'm also biased. My sibling does animation, so
Oh,
that's like what
nice.
they went to school for. So
Yeah.
we watched it and we were like, "Oh, like this is really good." I'm
Yeah.
also really excited that Marvel's doing like an animation section. So
Mhm.
that's really cool to like
Yeah.
make sure that format still stays. Especially because I don't know if you know that the Animation Guild is up on their uh
Yes,
AI stuff. This
they
Yay,
might be
they probably
striking
will
soon.
be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but it'll be nice that at least there's like a section of that for them that's kind
Mhm.
of established. So I know you've done like conventions and stuff because, my little snooping
Mhm.
for a couple of years, but there's a conversation on TikTok right now talking
Mhm.
about how pre and post-pandemic cons feel different. And I was
I
just wondering if you've
Yeah.
noticed or
I mean, let me think, because so did the only con I've done is New York Comic Con.
right,
And I did it the first time I went, I wasn't even doing, like, content creation. I was still
right.
in college. I was just a huge fan of Marvel. So I had gone to Comic Con a few years, and then I went in 2020 because they canceled it for 2020 because of the
Right.
pandemic. But I went in 2021. It was like you had to have the vaccine. You had to be masked. Um, and then I went 2022. I think was the last time I had gone.
Hmm. That's when I
And
met you.
yes, that's when we went. Yes, indeed. And like I think part of the reason why conventions might feel different is not necessarily because of the pandemic,
Right.
but it's that the pandemic coincided with, like, the rise of TikTok and the rise of, like, the fandom
Right.
content creators because, there had always been cosplayers, and
Exactly.
cosplayers had always had their community, but now it's more like influencers are a thing now
Right.
in film and TV, and that kind of started to rise during the COVID pandemic. So I
Exactly.
don't know if it's necessarily, like, the pandemic that changed things,
Right.
because, when I went in 2022, people weren't masked. It was like a huge crowd. Like, you didn't even have to have your vaccine at that point. Like, huge crowds of people. Like,
Right.
everybody's in each other's spaces. So I don't know if necessarily, like, I feel like in general we're at a point
It's
where,
the
like, a lot of people aren't really thinking about, like, the pandemic anymore.
right.
Like, it's not really affecting, like, what, because I remember, before, you people stopped sharing food, and then
Mhm.
yesterday Starbucks, and these two girls, one was like, "Oh, can I have a sip of your drink?" And I was like, "Oh, we're
Oh,
back to
oh
doing
yeah.
that? Oh,
Yeah.
okay." Um, I'll definitely say New York Comic Con has got a lot more packed. It's definitely
Because I was wondering because my first time going to New York Comic Con was 2019, and I've only gone one day. But I've been doing like content creation as a cosplayer since
yeah.
2016
Okay.
because I was on like Musical.ly before it was TikTok.
Okay.
So I've done, videos in like a con
Yeah.
space. So a lot of people were saying like the rise of TikTok and like the
Mhm.
making content is what's changed it. I was just
Yeah. No, I would say so because I mean, I started doing Marvel content like on TikTok, like fall 2019. And that was before there was really like
right.
any of the influencer, like the Marvel or the film influencers and anything. And I had gone to Comic Con that year and it was like a normal year. But then the next time I went in 2021, it's like, oh, there are all these creators like, hey, how you
Right.
doing? Like, people like being like, oh, I love your TikToks. Like, can I take a picture with you?
Exactly.
Like, which is extremely flattering,
Right.
extremely flattering.
Right.
It's like, now going as like a content creator, before you had like a sense of a not like you kind of just like another
Anatomy. Yeah.
person. Um, but then, and you remember, in 2022 when we were all dressed as Wanda, like we
Hmm.
could like it was like I think a solid hour where people kept like,
Right.
"Oh, can I take a picture with you?" Which again, super flattering. But
Right.
it is like a different thing now. I feel like now people are going like looking for like their favorite content creators, like in
Right.
addition to like, looking for their favorite celebrities. Like I feel like it's like another layer now of like the
Hmm.
the convention experience.
Right. Exactly. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just
No,
I
no.
understand that it's like different.
Yeah.
No, I think about our little Wanda coven a lot because like
Yeah.
there's a whole thing. There's a stigma of doing like the same character and people
Mhm.
having like the I don't want to talk to them. And I feel like
Yeah.
since coming back after the pandemic, I've mostly just hung out with people who are cosplaying the same character, which is really
Yeah.
cool because
Yeah.
it was our Wanda group, and then this last year I hung out with the Sylvie, and like we just hung out the whole time, and that was really nice. But it's been refreshing that that's like a
Yeah.
thing that because you like the same thing. Obviously, you're dressed as the same character, so like
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Like
yeah,
yes, I feel like now there's it's because before the like TikTok and everything, I felt like conventions could be a little lonely if you hadn't like gone with
mm,
somebody or you weren't planning on meeting up with somebody.
right,
But now I feel like people are more open to being like, "Oh my god, I love your cosplay, blah blah blah," and you just end
right.
up hanging out together.
Right. I mean, the one year that I met you guys was
Yeah.
my first year going by myself to New York Comic Con as like a
Oh,
full-fledged creator, which was very
yeah.
sweet because I got to go to hang out with people and they'd be like, "Here's Stella. I have to go do a thing. Go hang out with like, please, accept her into your group." I was like the lost puppy. I'm like, "Here she is. I have to. Can you watch her for me?" That's how I met like most of you guys that I know in New York now. So like, it's really cool.
Yeah, no, it
I
was
just
fun. It was fun. I think about our Girls Get It Done because it was, you as Sylvie, Alex
Alex,
was Starlight, and
yes,
I was, Jane
Jane,
Foster
yes.
Thor, yeah.
Gosh, Jane, I miss Jane.
I miss her too.
Did you see that they're doing a book with her and Loki in it? It came out this last week, and it's her as the Valkyrie, like she is in the comics right now, and then Loki if they were worthy of Mjolnir.
Mhm.
So
Mew
it's
Mew.
a very fun Mew Mew.
Ooh,
All
I love
right,
that.
and then I think that was my last question for you.
Ooh,
But
okay.
if there's this is the last one I had written down, but I could ask more. I could keep you here forever, but we've been almost going an hour, so. But thank you for coming, and
Yeah,
thank you
no.
for being back on Geek.
Yes, no, thank you so
Um,
much for inviting me, for having me on.
yeah.
Hello again to everybody on Geek because it's been a while.
Everyone, she is at Miss Catherine Mora everywhere.
Yes,
Oh,
everywhere.
cool. Make it easy.
MISS on TikTok, on everywhere, and then just MS on Twitter because Twitter doesn't
Cool.
let you have a lot of characters in your
That's
name.
I did not know that, but
Yeah.
that makes sense. So, yeah, so give her a follow and support her because we love her here because she used to be one of us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And whenever she wants to come back.
No.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you very much. And I will see you. I won't see you next time, but I will see them next time. All right.